Rick,
Hey, Keith.
how you doing?
I'm doing great, buddy. How are you today?
I'm doing good, man. There's this quote that you told me several months ago, man, and it's really stuck with me, man, about surrendering, which is different from giving up, but surrendering, letting life, just kind of flow and going with it. And it was a quote from Lao Tzu,
Mhm.
and it is a master allows things to happen and stays out of the way. A
Mhm.
master allows things to happen and stays out of the way. Can you riff on that for a little bit?
Sure. I think the reason why that appealed to me is that it's part of my overall practice, which is to detach from outcome whenever possible. And
Mm.
that doesn't mean that you let whatever shows up show up without you trying to make any changes that need to be made. For example, if your pot of stew is boiling over on the stove, you don't say, well, I'm just going to let it happen. Obviously, you go ahead and correct it. What Lao Tzu is talking about was more about your mental state and your psychological and emotional states when obstacles or challenges or circumstances come that you prefer didn't come. And what he's talking about is not falling off a cliff and being um, so discombobulated that you can't use your skill and your ability to think, and your ability to help to solve the problem. It's more about the idea of having an inner sense of not having to have things a certain way. If you have to have things a certain way, you're going to suffer because most of life isn't going to accommodate itself to you. I know that we in the West think that if we have enough money and we have good enough friends and we have a prestigious job, that we can insulate ourselves from life's harms. And that's true to a certain extent. People who have full stomachs have one less thing to worry about than those folks who are struggling to eat every day. But the reality is, all of humanity is going to be buffeted by circumstances that we don't like and that are way beyond our control. So I think what appeals to me is the idea that this guy 2,000 years ago, when life was a hell of a lot less complicated, felt, I'm sure, overwhelmed, or at least he saw plenty of evidence of people being overwhelmed. And he was saying that a master does not allow that to happen because of the practice. And the practice, again, is that sense of detachment, that sense of things can be managed, that the only thing that you have control over is your reaction to circumstance. You can't kill the circumstance. You can react to it, you can change it, you can do what you can for it, and then you have to accommodate it and let it go.
I totally agree. And what I found is, that some people may struggle. What I found for me before this practice, if you'd have told me something like that, first of all, I wouldn't understand. I wouldn't have understood what you were talking about because because I would still be led by, conventional thinking and led by what do you mean, like allow things to happen. Like how much bad is in the world, and if we'd allowed that to happen, where we would be.
Yeah.
That's not what they're saying.
No, that's not what it's about.
At all. But that's what Keith 1.0 would have been trying to counter what Lao Tzu with. I've been trying to counter what you're saying with that, which would have been so missing the mark, man. And which is what the ego often does. But what I think about is that discerning what action to take, if action is needed at all, as you allow things to happen, to unflow. What I guess informs my ability to know what action to take and how to work within the reality is a practice that is informed by kindness, compassionate collaboration with other people who are committed to the same kind of mission and higher purpose. If I do that, then it is so easy to let things go. I think about, some of these, films that I've watched over the years, and which for the master, they just kind of let, like life just kind of pass. And, and Brian Chong, our good friend who does Tai Chi, we've been, out by the creek in Sedona as he's been practicing. And he sees something comes to him through his Tai Chi practice, and he just kinds of like, it just effortlessly redirects it, and that's that peaceful action that you take when it's informed by kindness and you're collaborating with others who are playing, a bigger game that is based on everybody, winning and equity and inner peace. And that's how I kind of feel when I think about that is that the things that I have allowed to just happen, they're going to happen anyway, first of all. but the things that I have allowed to happen mean that internally I was peaceful. Rick, the way they've turned out could not have been better. If I had gotten my ego involved and be like, okay, I got this all figured out. This is what we need. If I had allowed that to happen, Rick, I would have made a mess of things. I would have, and all the while thinking that I'm really doing something. And then I could see like this wise guru just kind of sitting back and watch. Wow. just not judging, not commenting, but really what is just the guru is all saying, what a mess they're making of all of this. But okay.
So I have to ask you then, what if you were to give advice to anybody who was going through a period of excessive worry? And of course, when we go through periods of worry, we don't never think it's excessive. We think it's just the right amount because we got to solve it. I mean, so if you were counseling Keith 1.0, who was stuck in ego, but still trying to figure out things based on manipulating them and trying to control the outcome and trying to sort of ignore reality and make it fit to your own devices. What would Keith 2.0 counsel Keith 1.0 about how to go about doing that? What would be the steps?
First, Keith 2.0. I'm glad you asked the question that way, because had you asked it like of me right now, it would be very different advice that I would give to just generally to an audience. But since you asked, like, what would I say to someone specifically? And like, I can picture Keith 1.0 in my mind, because he's not too distant away and he can show up at any time. The message that I would give to him is first, as the person who's asking him to consider a different approach, it would be understanding what he's interested in and what motivates him. So I need that kind of I need to be able to talk his language. And his language, as I bring him along, I need a starting point to where he can hear me. And if I start off with talking about being aware and being conscious, he can't hear any of that. It's too noisy inside, and he's too achievement minded, and he'd rather walk around with a thorn and trying to protect it and not have anything bump up against it than to take the thorn out. He doesn't know that language yet. Mm-hmm. So for him, I would find out what's important. And for Keith 1.0, what's important is it's like really making a difference in the world. Like even for 1.0, and you knew 1.0 well, it was making a difference in the world. And I would say, knowing that's what he wanted, for some people, it could be a promotion, or for some people, it could be to have like their family just be working, or to have peace within their family. It's different for everybody. Or to just have like some joy in their lives and it not be all work and go, go, go. Once I identified what it was that what they cared about, I would say there's an easier path than the one you're taking.
Oh.
Easier path. And if you want to achieve it, because the path that you're on, you might come close to achieving it. I doubt it, but you might. But there's a ton of suffering along the way, and you won't fully enjoy it. You won't fully be present with it, and you won't grow as much as you could, which means that ultimately you won't be able to affect as many people in a positive way that you want to affect. or you won't be able to bring as much inner peace to your family unit as you could. I would use that language for that person, so that then they could see like, okay, you hear me, you understand what's important to me. Then I would say, all you need to do, and it's simple, is to come up with a practice that works for you and be committed to it. I mean, I don't care what happens, you do that practice every single day, because that practice is going to create an opening from all that obsessive thinking, the worry, the anxiousness, the self-sabotaging behavior, like the behavior, like I need to go handle this, or I need to go tell this person, all of that nonsense is going to clear all that out of the way. And what's going to become clear to you is an easier, more effective way to walk down this path as you go about doing whatever you need to do to create some of that reality in your life, to manifest that. Like, it's so simple to do that. Has someone given me that advice, Rick, it would have been so much easier for me to allow things to happen and stay out of the way, and then just kind of like I'm on a stream. Instead of going the opposite direction, I would just step onto a light little raft and I would float along with the stream. That's what the practice does, man. It clears all the debris. Right now, you're right.
Your boat gently down the stream.
Thank you.
Merrily, merrily, merrily,
Right.
merrily, life is but a
Right.
dream.
But instead, Keith 1.0, this dude was on rapids. He's going the wrong direction. It's white water everywhere, Rick. And then I got the practice, man. It's no white water. Like, and as much people like, oh, I like the excitement. Yeah. When you're at the mountaintop, you don't like those valleys? Don't fool yourself. You don't want part of that. So man, that's what I would tell myself, is I would find out what's important to that person. You want to be, okay, the young person in your life, your child is struggling. And while you can't take the struggle away from them, that's something that they got to walk themselves. How can you have inner peace as this happens? You know, how can you still make sure that it doesn't, to the best of your ability, it doesn't affect the life of your children or the other people that are holding space while your loved one, you know, is on their journey. Like, if you want that, that's possible. That's what I would tell. That's what Keith 2.0 would do. It first would identify what's important to that person, and then it would show them that there's an easier way, and a more effective way. That's what I would do. And then I think it's all aligned with what Lao Tzu says, which is a master allows things to happen and stays out of the way. I've learned how to stay out of the way, man. And dude, it's so nice.
Congratulations, brother. I'm really, really impressed. It's true. I think everything you said is exactly on. The issue is, to start off, is you have to throw your heart over the bar. In other words, that's a quote that comes from my coach. I was foolishly involved in high jumping and track when I was a kid, and I had a sort of a ceiling. It was pretty low, but I had a ceiling that I couldn't get over. And he said, your problem is not your physical ability. Your problem is your mental inability to figure out that you can actually do it. So he said, when you run up to the bar this time, instead of trying to focus on the technique, focus on this. Throw your heart over the bar. Just want to be on the other side of that thing. You want to have it a lot, have leverage on yourself, throw your heart into it. And so I guess the point I'm making is that, just like me, my experience and your experience, Keith, what started us down on this road was the suffering and the amount of pain that we were feeling that wasn't going anywhere. It was like a garbage disposal on high with nothing to grind, and life wasn't working as well as we knew it could. And so I guess the first point people have to decide is, do you have leverage enough on yourself? Are you suffering enough with the way you're doing it now that might lead you to another alternative that offers something better?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think everyone has to answer that for themselves. I knew that there was a lot more suffering that I could experience, Rick, but I had enough. There was enough. So I just really, man, just really tried to practice, no matter what, being kind. And I know there's a lot of things that can take you off that path. And maybe that's our next podcast. And I'm just staying out of the way, man. And dude, it's so much easier, man. And you're still effective. Like you're more effective. So I'll end there, Rick. I love you.
I love you too, brother. Thank you. Thank you for including me.
Always.